Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:07. It's Monday, and we are psyched for this week. It's going to be a good one. And if I may mention, this Saturday is the Army-Navy football game right in our backyard in Baltimore. Very exciting, as Navy just learned they're playing Cincinnati in the Liberty Bowl. And I believe Army also got some kind of consolation bowl. I don't know. Well, anyway, the Army-Navy game is what it's all about anyway. Also, coming up later this morning at 7:35, Kevin Kline, Executive Director of the USS Arizona Operation 85 Project, talk about yesterday's commemoration of Pearl Harbor Day and his organization, what they're trying to achieve there. And then at 8:35, Chuck Thies, D.C. political analyst. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Julie, did you have Christmas shopping still, or are you done?
I am 80% done.
Look at you. Well done.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm about to administer an eggnog IV drip and just sort of put myself into a caloric and booze-filled comatose and sleep through the entire Christmas season. That's my plan. Joining us right now, the man the Feast of the Seven Fishes was named in commemoration for. He is the one and only Joe diGenova. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Larry and Julie.
It's on my bucket list to do the Feast of the Seven Fishes with the diGenova extended family.
Yes.
That would be
Yes. Well, you're always welcome here in St. Augustine, Florida.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Nothing says Christmas cheer like Christmas lights in a palm tree. That's always
correct.
It's a white Christmas. Joe, so much going on. First of all, your reflection on the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, announced that she's not running, and now it appears we've got and the D.C. police chief is stepping down, and now we've got a Zohran Mamdani type who is looking to replace her. What do you think the future may look like here in D.C.?
Well, I think if you get one look at the city council and the politics in general of the city, the future does not look good. The city is a mess. It's been improved markedly by President Trump's law enforcement effort on behalf of a reluctant city leadership, which didn't even understand what was good for it. But the future is not good, very, very bleak. You look at the city council, and it's a collection of knaves and fools. And that's where the farm league is for the mayor. So I would say that it's basically more power to Congress would be really important for the city to make sure that it doesn't go back into receivership like it did when Marion Barry was mayor.
Well, or perhaps we need to rethink home rule entirely. And if they do swerve into that kind of radicalism, that might give Republicans in Congress enough motivation to get that done eventually. Joe, if I can shift your attention to the Supreme Court, where they announced that they will be taking up a case that will once and for all address birthright citizenship. Have you had a chance to look at the details of that case?
I have, and here's my thinking on this. All of the lower courts who have ruled on this have ruled against the president. They've said that the 14th Amendment is clear, which it is not, and that the president is wrong, and that there's one case in 1898, and that's all that matters. Now, why would the Supreme Court grant cert when all of the lower courts have ruled against the president, so that the law is basically uniform around the country? Well, I think the court wants to settle the issue finally. And however, I think that they're going to settle it in a pretty bad way. I think they're taking it up so they can ring the bell that the 14th Amendment doesn't have any qualifier in it, which I think it does. And I'd be very surprised if they didn't affirm all the lower court rulings, and then we'd probably have either 3 or 4 very vigorous dissents. But I'm not hopeful that they're going to support the president. I think it's clear to me that Roberts is probably looking for a nice end ramp here, a soft landing.
Interesting.
Yeah. I want to shift one more time over to more crime in Charlotte, North Carolina, another stabbing on their light rail. And sort of the problem, many people are saying that the part of the problem here is these judges who are letting these repeat violent criminals off. We see this constantly, especially I live in Northern Virginia. We see this unwillingness of Soros prosecutors to even prosecute these people, even charge them. But it's really the judges here who are letting these people off with either light sentences or off altogether. Where is the appetite to impeach these judges or hold them in any way accountable for the violence that falls on innocent citizens once they're released, once these criminals are released?
Well, almost all of these cases are state courts and state judges. Impeachment under the U.S. Constitution does not apply to them. Okay. In many states, there are impeachment provisions which the state legislatures utterly refuse to use in most circumstances because of the politics of it and the length of time involved in it. There are judicial commissions in most states which review the conduct of judges, but when you get right down to it, although there are some really bad judges around the country, really incompetent judges at the local level, there are also a lot of very bad laws which have been enacted by state legislatures and local city councils creating no cash bail, which puts these folks back out on the street. And we know from the history of crime is that 80% of the crime is committed by 20% of offenders, and they are repeat offenders. And the system has failed to deal with the chronic offender repeatedly. And that's the core of the problem. Unless you lock up for long periods of time repeat offenders, crime will not seriously go down.
Joe, I want to hold you over for another segment because we need to talk about the January 6th pipe bomb investigation. But before we do, James Comey had, I guess, what could be termed a small victory in court over the weekend where a judge has decided that there's certain evidence. This is U.S. District Judge Kline Cotley, with a hyphen, thank you very much, but I do like that alliteration. Said prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office can't use evidence from email accounts in a computer that belonged to Daniel Richmond. That's that Columbia law professor that James Comey used as sort of his go-between to leak information to the New York Times. And I don't know if you've seen this argument or not, but it suggested, just knowing what you and Victoria went through and so many other people in the Trump administration or aligned with President Trump went through with regard to a seizure of cell phones and emails and improper surveillance. It said that the court is evaluating. They granted a temporary restraining order while the court evaluates the motion to return property and awaits full briefing. This has to do with emails that the feds illegally held on to, according to the complaint, and that there was apparently some sort of illegal and improper unconstitutional search and seizure of this person's emails and documentation, even though it's well documented that he did, in fact, do exactly what James Comey is accused of doing, which is lying about leaking information to the New York Times, and this guy was used as the go-between. What do you think of this judge's ruling?
Well, I've known Judge Colleen Kohler-Catelli for 40 years. She used to be the general counsel of St. Elizabeth's Hospital, and she became a federal judge. She's a very fine person, one of the nicest people I've ever met. She has become, over the years, extremely liberal, left of center, very, very Democratic-oriented, very anti-Trump, in a nice way, if I may say. But the problem is, this is Trump derangement system in the legal system. This is utter nonsense. Mr. Richmond was a vehicle for the illegal and improper disclosure of internal FBI information. The story of him being used as a tool by James Comey to improperly leak information to the New York Times is now so well established. I can't imagine what her thinking is and why she's gone this route. There were all sorts of legal bases for seizing these emails. Most of them were government employee emails, so the government can seize them to a fare thee well. So I just think that Judge Catelli is really off base here. I think ultimately she will be overruled by a higher court. Even the D.C. Circuit, no matter how liberal it is, will get it right.
Oh,
She's
good.
just wrong. Your outrage is well-founded.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. All right, a little bit more follow-up on that, and then to the J6 pipe bomb story in a moment with Joe diGenova.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Yeah, Joe diGenova, just a quick follow-up on the Comey story. You're right. It is undeniable that the evidence shows that James Comey leaked sensitive and classified information from the FBI and from the Justice Department through his friend, Mr. Richman, specifically intended to go to the New York Times, and there's email exchanges with them talking about it, celebrating that the article got printed, that they wanted to get printed. It's also undeniable that he then lied about that very fact multiple times before Congress, thus the perjury charges. It seems to me that we've now got a judge who recognizes that fact, and so the only way James Comey is going to get off is if that very evidence can't be submitted in trial, and so the judge has said, yeah, you're not going to be able to submit that evidence in trial, and that's how James Comey gets off. And by the way, again, I frame this within the context of the mountains of personal information that was seized by the federal government of the President of the United States, no less, at Mar-a-Lago, let alone people who worked in the administration and people who didn't. You didn't work for the Trump administration, but your personal information was seized. And there was never a ruling that it was done improperly. I guess that's where my outrage is stemming from here, is that they're going to let Comey off. It's going to be on some stupid technicality. Everyone's going to act like he was innocent when he wasn't. And meanwhile, the double standard on how people who are Republicans or Trump supporters are treated and mistreated is absolutely unfathomable.
Absolutely. First of all, Larry, you don't need me. Your commentary was perfect. You don't need a lawyer on this show. You did a great job. Here's the deal, though. There's something called the crime fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege, which they use to protect this information, saying Richman was Comey's attorney. Remember how they got all that information from Trump's lawyers during the impeachment proceedings? That was all because of what they said was a crime fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege. It applies to Comey here, and all this evidence, believe me, is going to come in. By the way, it was a mistake to indict Comey in the Eastern District of Virginia. It never should have been done. They should have let him be indicted down in Florida with all the other conspirators and just taken it from there. You just can't rush cases like this. And besides, when you have a judiciary that's against you, you got to be even more careful.
Anyway, speaking of not rushing cases, you saw the indictment brought down on the suspect of the January 6th pipe bomb incident. A lot of people
are questioning the white supremacist.
Thank you, Jake Tapper. Thank you. Yes. It seems to me this is really an indictment, whether literal or not, of Christopher Wray and his willful negligence of this case. What did you see, and what do you make of it all?
Well, as soon as I saw what the case was about, I said this was a case which the FBI, Christopher Wray, and the Washington field office purposely did not pursue. Now, why is that the case? Because this was a counter-narrative. When they saw the pipe bombs had been planted at both the RNC and the DNC, they said, this is not going to go well. This is not going to be a MAGA person. Let's just not investigate this. Now, all of the information that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and the Washington field office investigated starting in January of this year was already in the book. There was no new evidence obtained, no leads, no new witnesses. What happened was they picked up the ball. They did professional analysis of existing information, credit cards, GPS location, telephones. All that stuff existed. And they got the case. They made the case. It was very simple. That doesn't mean it wasn't hard to do, but it was a simple case. And why did Christopher Wray not do it? Another reason he should be in the dock. He didn't want to investigate this case, and the FBI people around him agreed not to investigate it. This was an outrage. This is another example of how corrupt Christopher Wray was as FBI director.
All right, Joseph, we're going to leave it there. There's so much more that we could go to. We really could bring you in as a co-host for all 4 hours one of these days. But honestly, and I'll be perfectly honest, because you know that I have great respect and admiration for you, we just can't afford you.
I'll give you a cheap rate.
Yeah. Oh, there's cheap and there's cheap. I've seen your digs in St. Augustine.
Hey, I work for scale.
Thank you, Joe. Always great to talk with you.
You bet.
It is 7:23.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Kevin Kline, not the actor, but a much more important Kevin Kline. He's the executive director of the USS Arizona Operation 85, and he'll talk to us about Pearl Harbor's 84th anniversary since the attack. Keep it here. It's 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
That was 84 years ago today when President Franklin Roosevelt addressed a joint session of Congress and called for a declaration of war, which was then passed. And we were at war, World War II. That's right, Pearl Harbor Day was yesterday. And to discuss it, we have a guest, Kevin Kline, Executive Director of the USS Arizona Operation 85 project, which has a very specific focus on the events of Pearl Harbor. Kevin Kline, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I think everybody knows that the USS Arizona is sort of the iconic representation of the horror of December 7th, 1941. Of course, it's the beautiful, incredible memorial when you go to Pearl Harbor, and you can see her right there just below the surface, right where she sank that day 84 years ago yesterday. But your focus here on the USS Arizona is, incredibly powerful, actually. What is Operation 85?
Well, just to give the quick backstory, again, my uncle was killed on the USS Arizona. Our family always thought that his remains and his final resting place was within that sunken ship underneath that beautiful memorial. And, of course, you know, hearing that my whole life, I have a wife and kids and family, and it was a bucket list trip to go out there and see the memorial, pay my respects to my uncle, which we did back in 2022. And it was actually on the way home. I had purchased a book at a gift shop. It was on the way home when I learned about these unknowns. These are crew members of the Arizona that were actually removed from the ship. They were never identified, and they were buried in commingled graves 10 miles away from Pearl Harbor. And they just sit there today in commingled graves marked unknown USS Arizona. And that's pretty much when I started to, get interested in why are these guys there, and how come we didn't know about it?
It is so strange that we would have done that. And obviously it was a sneak attack, and it was a crazy time there at the first days of the World War, and it was traumatic for the people in Hawaii there. But has there ever been an explanation why U.S. soldiers who fell in the very first attack of World War II, who are memorialized beautifully with military graveyards all around the world, Normandy, here in Washington, what have you, Battle of the Bulge, why these sailors were just put into unmarked graves without any recognition?
Well, I could understand, Larry, why it happened back then. We're talking 1942. The country's about to get into a war. DNA technology or identifying remains that were burned, or the bodies were dismantled, or that technology was not there at the time. So why they did it then, I completely understand. However, why they still sit there today with the technology that we have and the precedent that they've set for doing other ships in the same cemetery. They were very successful with the USS Oklahoma, and they identified over 300 of the remains from the USS Oklahoma. So the precedent has been set. The technology is there. So my question to the government 3 years ago when I met them for the first time was, when are the Arizona guys next? And at the time, I thought they were 85. But now we know that there was potentially up to 141 that could be associated with the crew of the Arizona.
So you're asking, what you want is for families to be able to decide that if they want to have these, their service member identified, through a process and then sort of removed from that commingled burying spot and then brought home and reburied. That's really that's a pretty simple request. And that's what you're seeking. Is that correct?
First off, hi, Julie.
Hi.
Yes, in a way. Yes. So my goal really is to get the word unknown off of all those graves. That kind of hit a nerve with me. And so regarding what the families do, remember there were 1,071 that are still considered missing that were killed. And remember, there's only 141 potential unknowns in these graves. So the majority of the crew are still on the ship. And our family organization has no interest in touching the ship and touching the memorial. We just want to resolve the unknowns that are buried 10 miles away. Regarding what the families could do, they do have an option. The families could bring home the body and bury it here stateside. They could choose to have the body reburied in the same cemetery with their name on it instead of the word unknown on it. And for the USS Arizona, it's very unique. Families can choose to have the remains interred back into the hull of the ship so that they rest for eternity with their shipmates. And it's funny, we've connected with over 1,500 family members, and myself and one of my volunteers, we've talked to every single one of them, and we do ask that. We tell them the chances are low, but we do ask it. There's only 2 family members that said they would bring them home and put them in a grave, only because their mothers or their grandmothers had purchased a grave. The grave still sits empty today, and they felt like that's something they had to do for their mother, is to bring them. However, the majority of family all said, we want to put him back in the ship. We want him to be where we always thought he was, and our family always thought he was, which is back in the USS Arizona and in the hull of the ship. And that's that's kind of where our family would stand too, is we just want to take the word unknown off these guys, and we want to give them a final resting place.
Yeah.
And let them be known. Yeah.
Kevin Kline is our guest. Kevin Kline is the executive director of the USS Arizona Operation 85 project. And I guess, Kevin, the last question here is, who can get this done? I mean, here it's the 250th birthday of our Marines, Army, and Navy. Next year, we're going into not only the 250th birthday of America, but it's also the 85th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. It seems like a no-brainer to get this done. Can the Pentagon just decide to do this? Who's got the jurisdiction?
Well, just so you know, when I first reached out to the agency that does it, it was a hard no. The answer was no. The answer was it would be too difficult, too costly to find the family members. And the Navy did a study in 2022 that said it would cost approximately $3 million and take 10 years just to find the families. That's what made me so mad, because the answer was no because of that. And that's what Operation 85 is. I've spent the last 3 years of my life, put everything on hold, my family, my business, everything. In the last 3 years, I have found all of those families. We found enough families and we turned in enough DNA to turn this hard no into a yes. So thus last 3 years, it was no. But as of today, the DPAA and the Pentagon is starting to watch. And I have to tell you, it was a tough struggle working with the last administration and trying to get anything moving. But this new administration has caught on, and I'm happy to report that they are very supportive, not only in potentially resolving the USS Arizona unknowns, but again, trying to do it fast and quickly. They want to know, if the Navy thought it was going to be 10 million in 10 years, or 3 million in 10 years, how could some real estate agent from Virginia who has no background, no experience, anything, do this so quickly? And thank God this administration opened their eye and said, let's talk to him. Let's find out how he did it. And I'm excited about that, because I don't think this can actually just resolve the Arizona. You have to understand there are thousands of family members over there for other conflicts, other wars, Vietnam, other conflicts in World War II that are still missing family members. And I think the process that we built and the connections and the relationships that we built can help so many other families as well. So I think it's going to open the door for a lot of families.
Kevin Kline, I know this is a passion of yours. I've met you personally, and you can tell how passionate you are about it and the love you've got for these men and for your uncle in particular. And, listen, you keep us updated. You'd be surprised who listens to this show every morning as they're coming into work or while they're at work. And some of those people are the types that can grease the wheels on a project like this. And we'd love to get an update from you when you can.
I appreciate that, Larry. And if there are any other family members or someone that is related to a USS Arizona crew member, or anyone that needs help with the missing, you can go to our website, which is ussarizona.navy, and connect with me there. There's all information about it, but we'd love to connect with any family members that need some help.
Excellent. Great stuff. And by the way, you can forgive the last administration for not doing anything. I mean, we had a president who claimed that his uncle was eaten by cannibals in Papua New Guinea. I mean, I'm shocked we're still standing after that. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Julie.
I appreciate it.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Yeah, for all you metric football fans out there, the soccer championship thing, what is it? World Cup. Yeah. It's going to be next year. And I'm kidding. I'm plugged in on the World Cup. I do like to make fun because soccer fanatics just go nuts if you start diminishing the importance of the sport because it's not quite as prominent here in America, but we have a good team. And the Kennedy Center was the place to be this weekend. My Lord, this administration is making use of that beautiful facility. The FIFA final draw ceremonies took place on Friday. That's where they draw where the teams will be bracketed and who they'll be playing against next year in the World Cup. Did you see the Mount Rushmore of North American sports there participating? Tom Brady, Aaron Judge, Shaquille O'Neal, and Wayne Gretzky.
Wow.
All representing sports that, people actually care about, where they actually score points.
Yeah.
Anyway, they participated in that draw. And the USA, by the way, is in Group D. They'll be playing against Paraguay, Australia, and a European playoff winner to be named later. Europe does this whole thing, and then they slot in. So we get playoff C. In the group that we're in, and I think we're looking good. We might make it to the second round. Let's see what happens.
Wow. Well, it's really caught on in America. Soccer has.
It has.
Yeah, we didn't have that. Did you have that in the Midwest? I mean, I know you moved to California when you were a little bit of an older teen, but I grew up in the Midwest, and we didn't have soccer.
A little bit. It was just starting when, but no, it's fine. And we're, I've become season ticket holders to the Annapolis Blues, a minor league team. They're fantastic. Michael Shelton, our soundboard operator here, is the voice of Loudoun United. He calls every game out there, and Loudoun United does very well. They're a feeder team. So no, it is a thing. Yeah, what it takes is it requires leadership to really elevate the profile of soccer here in America. And Trump apparently is a huge soccer fan, and maybe his leadership will push soccer up to that higher echelon. I mean, take a listen to what he had to say at the final draw there on Friday, where, by the way, he got a peace prize from FIFA. Are they not brilliant there at FIFA?
They're so smart.
They know exactly
he deserves
what they're doing. Here was Trump making, a remarkable statement.
When you look at what has happened to football in the United States, again, soccer in the United States, we seem to never call it that because we have a little bit of a conflict with another thing that's called football. But when you think about it, shouldn't it really be called? I mean, this is football. There's no question about it. We have to come up with another name for the NFL stuff.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
It really doesn't make sense when you think about it. It is really football.
Those are fighting words.
I believe we need to impeach that orange SOB.
You're finally there.
That's it. All right, I get it now. Could Jonah?
You're ready
Jonah,
to work?
I understand.
Yeah, off to the bulwark.
That's it. That's the final straw for me. It's done. Trump is very good at ingratiating himself with the audience that he's speaking to, and I think that was just him operating at an international diplomatic level. But there is no possible way that football, real football, American football, will ever be renamed to accommodate people from third world nations who don't know any better. Right? Julie, I need more confidence in that.
Sports, it's not my strength.
All right. Well, football is football, and soccer is soccer, and maybe as usual, the rest of the world should accommodate us now and again. It is 7:54.